All right, Filoni and Favreau are doing an absolutely amazing job with new Star Wars. It is absolutely insane the amount of fan service they're getting right, and just the storylines. Everything they're doing is what fans have been asking for, and has trumped the sequel trilogy by far. And everyone seems to be happy. The fans are finally uniting. Saying all that, they've been slowly setting up quite a big plot hole in the Star Wars universe. Let's talk about it. So, the big Star Wars plot hole. I can't help but keep thinking about this, but the fact that Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano have not officially met in canon is starting to become mind-boggling for me, and it's starting to really not make sense. Mind you, I will preface this with, they can correct this all with one line of dialogue, one episode of one of these spin-off shows. It's easily addressable. They likely have something planned for the future, but right now it's a plot hole. Let's talk about the facts we have first. George Lucas and Dave Filoni, when they were first creating the Clone Wars, Ahsoka Tano was a character who was never going to survive to the end. George Lucas himself always figured Ahsoka would die in The Purge, and it makes sense. He didn't want to ruin that continuity of the original trilogies, because as far as the original trilogies were concerned, you had Luke, you had Leia, who was Force sensitive, obviously, and then Obi-Wan and Yoda, and those were your four, key figures after The Purge. Obviously, with Ahsoka getting quite the following, and, she's in my top 3 favorite characters. I know a ton of people feel the same way. Dave wasn't going to kill her off. It's his creation. It's his baby. What he did was he found a very creative way on how she could survive the Purge by having her kicked out of the Jedi Order. She ends up surviving Order 66. So that in itself makes sense. It sits right. But then Dave inserts her into Rebels. And yes, she starts off with the code name as Fulcrum, and she's kind of a spy, but she ends up full on helping the rebellion. And then fast forward to the epilogue when they're going to look for Ezra. When you see her ship fly in, it's being escorted by X-Wings. So she's full on in the rebellion. As far as key characters are concerned, Ahsoka and Luke both know Mon Mothma. Or at least we can give a very, very strong educated guess they both know Mon Mothma well. So how did the leader of the rebellion not connect the 2 Jedi she knows who are both helping the rebellion? That kind of stands out. What they ended up doing with Rex, again, in the epilogue, we find out Rex's story. Obviously, he helped that particular rebel cell. He got brought into a larger rebel cell, and we find out he fought in the Battle of Endor.
Hera fought in the Battle of Endor, as did Commander Rex.
And everyone knows the old dude with the white beard as part of the, the command crew for not the command crew for the shuttle, but the strike team that goes to the Forcemen of Endor, has kind of been retconned as Rex. So if that is actually Rex and their intention, he was literally on the shuttle with Luke to go there. So it's quite, we could easily draw those connections that Luke would have known Rex as well. And given Rex's relationship with not only Ahsoka, but, Luke's father, how did those conversations not come up? I find it hard to believe that Ahsoka and Rex were just hiding this and keeping their distance from Luke. Again, it's a big galaxy. There was lots of rebel cells. Maybe they were never connected to each other than the moments I've shared. Sure, you want me to believe that? We'll see. But now I bring you on this. Luke Skywalker was the biggest celebrity in this galaxy there ever was. He's at the, the Earth version of, the Kardashians or Donald Trump or, The Rock, someone who everybody knows something about, whether you want to or not. Luke was that big. 30 years later down the road, Finn and Rey know who Luke Skywalker is, have heard of him.
Apparently he has a map that leads to Luke Skywalker, and everyone's after it.
Luke Skywalker? I thought he was a myth.
And we're talking about a vast, giant galaxy, and they've heard the tales of Luke Skywalker. So you're telling me Ahsoka Tano never heard the tales of a Skywalker who blew up the Death Stars, you know, defeated Darth Vader, all this stuff. Like, these stories would have been told as myths, legends. They would have been celebrated. You know, it would have been on the HoloNet as, you know, the front page news for years to come. So the fact that Ahsoka Tano never knew who Luke was it's puzzling. It's puzzling, to say the least. But as I mentioned earlier, it wouldn't take very much to close this plot hole. We can find out in another episode if she shows up in The Mandalorian again. You know, there's lots of rumors of Sebastian Stan potentially being recast as a young Luke. They got something in the works, and if they meet, they could easily, you know, maybe they already bring up, you know, Master Skywalker, good to see you again, or something like that. Or it's a big introduction, and they could explain, you know, I stayed away for this, I didn't want to influence you, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure literally one line of dialogue, they could fix that. But let's talk about this again for one more moment. How, like, get the box of tissues out when Luke and Ahsoka finally do meet on screen, because we're gonna get Ahsoka being able to tell Luke, obviously, all about Anakin and what he was like growing up. And then the one key piece, though, is Ahsoka can also tell Luke about Padme. You know, Luke clearly brings up on how he has no memory of his mother.
I have no memory of my mother.
And even when he asks Leia, and Leia's like, you know, she was beautiful, doesn't really know much either. Like, Ahsoka could fill in those gaps for Luke, and even Leia at that, right? On who their mother was, like what she did, everything about her, everything their father stood for until he was twisted by Sidious. And then on the flip side, you know, Ahsoka's lived with this pain that how could my master have turned to the dark side? How could he have done all this stuff? To the point where she's even had to battle him. And Luke can fill in the gap that, guess what? Anakin Skywalker was redeemed. He was the one, he saved my life. He's the one who, you know, killed the Emperor. He's the one who he brought the balance to the Force. So, like, these are conversations that are very, very important, and I think need to happen, and we might be getting those down the road, which would be amazing to see. That's what I got for right now. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Should Luke and Ahsoka have met? Do you think they have met? And are we getting some sort of storyline plot thread down the road of Luke and Ahsoka finally meeting? And will we get some sort of badass team up? Let me know. If you like this video, please subscribe.